SD Gundam G Generation G Eternal, or as I like to call it, is a game set in the post-Hello Kitty apocalypse. In this title, you play as John Gundam, commanding teams of mobular suits to reenact the most famous occurrences of violence throughout the Gundamverse. A strategy that is based on turns. Along the way, we'll explore the horrors of war, or we would if we hadn't skipped the story and ran the stage on auto. Instead, we are subjected to predatory monetization and the terrors of military hardware procurement. I assure you, high-ranking Earth Federation officer, the prototype being presented is a top-of-the-line killing machine, and definitely not that Gun Cannon 2 that we showed you last week with a Gundam head slapped on top. So join me as I tell you what it's like to play this goofy installment into the G Generation series, and why it's the unfinished game that's topping the sales charts. By the way, if you're looking for more Gundam-related content, I just launched a new podcast with my two good friends Dan and Ellis called the Noobtypes podcast. They'll be walking me through the zany parts of Gundam as I learn more about it as a relative newcomer to the franchise.
You go from, 0079, which in this case is just called Mobile Suit Gundam, then Zeta, then Double Zeta, then the movie Char's Counterattack, then Unicorn, I guess.
Oh, for a second there, I was thinking you were gonna whip out a triple Zeta.
Honestly?
Man, I don't understand this trilogy at all. Zeta Gundam, Double Zeta, Zenless Zone Zero. Don't worry if you don't know anything about Gundam. We're gonna make sure you don't really need to know anything about it to enjoy the show. So if you've ever been curious about this IP full of goofy giant robots and the horrors of war, be sure to check out the Noobtypes podcast. I'll have it linked in the top right corner of this video and in the description if you want to check it out. Alright, before we really dig into what exactly this game is and the workings of the gameplay, first I'm going to provide a smidge of context. Super Deformed Gundam, or SD Gundam for short, is a sub-series within the wider Gundam IP that features various mobile suits from all over the franchise after they've been reconstructed with 100% more marketable plushie factor. It's practically a franchise unto itself, with its own anime, video games, and entire line of model kits, just like the rest of the mainline Gundam series. Within this, then, we have the G Generation games, which are a series of strategy games not terribly unlike Super Robot Wars, although with a focus exclusively on the various different Gundam universes. Some follow the events of a series as they are portrayed in their source material, others opt for original or crossover plotlines, with releases going all the way back to the original PlayStation. What's even wilder is the fact that G Eternal isn't even the first G Generation Gacha game. So what's different this time around? Well, I personally can't say for certain given that I haven't actually played any of the previous G-Gen games. My impression is that G Eternal is made to be an entry point for people who are new not just to G Generation or even SD Gundam, but to Gundam in general.
I just saw.
Yeah, the
Dakrello.
We've all seen it.
All of the main story campaigns follow the various mainline Gundam series story, with a visual novel-style cutscene before each stage to provide you with just enough context to feel like you know what's going on. I would have more to say about exactly how good of a job these do, except I realized pretty early on that this is pretty much objectively the worst way to experience these storylines, and decided to skip all of it in favor of just consuming the source material instead. Look, I'm 30 episodes into 0079. It's just gonna take me a while, alright? Heyo, Future Vermilion here. As it turns out, while I was editing this video, they put out an announcement that you'll be able to watch the source material for these campaigns in the app itself, as long as you have the Eternal Pass, which is some kind of subscription, I assume. Now, I don't know about you, but G Eternal randomly becoming the best Gundam streaming service was not on my bingo card. Anyways, I just thought that was kind of funny. Back to the video. Another nice thing is that each series is laid out sequentially in their respective timelines. All of the UC campaigns are presented one after the other, and any AU series are set parallel to them in the menu to make it clear that they're their own thing. The game launched with a really respectable amount of representation from all of the heaviest hitters of the franchise, and the game is regularly updated with additional campaigns to further fill out the timeline. It's clear that they have a solid plan for expanding the game at a pace gamers have come to expect from modern gacha games. So why am I calling the game unfinished? Aren't all live service games like this? Well, to explain why I think the game is fundamentally incomplete, we first have to discuss If my previous video on a niche RTS from the late 2000s didn't already make it obvious, I am your average strategy game enjoyer. I grew up on titles like Advance Wars and Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. So when I say that I immediately latched onto the core gameplay of G-Eternal, consider it high praise. At first, it may seem like just another grid-based strategy game, but there are some key mechanics that make it unique and oddly fast-paced. You see, if one of your units get a kill, they get to go again. This mechanic, called Chance Step, immediately encourages and rewards aggression. Typically, units only get one extra turn per round, but there's some that get two. We'll get more into the implications of that later. However, this isn't the only way G-Eternal rewards blitz tactics. Successful attacks, especially ones that kill, raise your pilot's tension. And the higher the tension, the bigger a buff they receive, up to a 30% damage bonus. Some suits also have powerful weapons that can only be used with high enough tension as well, serving as a reward for skillful play. Further layering onto this are the 3 roles that a suit and their pilot can have: attacker, durability, and support. Attackers have the highest base attack stats, and their pilots sometimes get 2 chance steps instead of just 1. Durability suits, as their name implies, are the tanks, and can perform support defense. When an enemy attacks a friendly within range, they can shield that unit, taking reduced damage. The most powerful durability pilots can do 2 support defenses per round instead of just 1. Finally, supports not only apply various debuffs with their attacks, they can also do support attacks. If a friendly attacks or is attacked while the support is in range, the support can get an attack of their own in and the enemy can't counterattack it. And you guessed it, the top support pilots can do 2 support attacks per round instead of just 1. Adding all of this together, this leads to a strategy game where the cannon fodder is no longer just a nuisance or simply a roadblock to progress. They're instead walking piñatas containing damage buffs and extra mobility. Further layer on the various pilot abilities and warship support capabilities, and you get a game with a surprising amount of depth with extremely easy to understand mechanics. Or in other words, a golden gameplay loop. This is only further enhanced by how G-Eternal handles The true G-Eternal experience is not experiencing famous battles throughout the Gundam multiverse or getting a taste of each major Gundam series all in one convenient location, but by you obliterating all story content by hyper-investing into a single squad of 5 extremely overleveled units, which you then use to steamroll each campaign, including all of the hard mode secret bosses. You see, while each stage requires you to field the squad that is restricted to units from the series you are playing through, you also get a second squad where anything goes. All of this may sound like there's no real challenge present in the game, but believe me, there definitely is. It's just located in the endgame called Eternal Road. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Each stage gives you the resources you need to build out and refine on not just the units you get from the gacha, but also farmable units that can be crafted all the way up to SSR tier. This is the development tree, which allows you to take the free units you get from story campaigns and combine them with various resources to not just make them viable, but competitive compared to gacha units. One of the best features of this game is that while yes, whaling is the ultimate power, everything is balanced around the free-to-play experience. At least it is for the time being. Since you can farm up as many copies of a development tree SSR as you have the stamina for, and they give you enough resources to SP convert around 2 units per month, you can always count on completely maxing out the development tree units, and a fully limit broken SP converted SSR is actually better than a 0-star UR unit. Hey, it's Future Vermilion again. Just wanted to pop in and say that they also announced a new system to SP convert pilots, as well as the SSP conversion system for already SP converted units that will further close the gap between SP converted dev units and the Gacha URs. How much it will shorten the gap, I'm not entirely sure, and how long it will realistically take someone to do this per unit, I'm not entirely sure yet, as they haven't given us all the details, but this makes me hopeful that they're committed to sticking to balancing around the free-to-play experience in the long term. Not only that, but there are special units you get for completing certain development trees that you can then convert into URs as well, although it definitely isn't cheap. So not only is it satisfying to fully fill out a development tree, it's greatly rewarding. And this is why I consider G Eternal to be, at least at time of writing, incomplete. Why? Because half of the dev trees in the game are unfinished. You can't complete them because half of the units needed to do so aren't even in the game. Sure, they have completed some of the dev trees that were incomplete at launch, but at the rate we're going, it's going to be years before some of these get touched. Is it that big of a problem though? Not really. You can already clear all of the content in the game with all the units currently in it. Heck, the player base has even completed the optional endgame challenges like completing Eternal Road Expert with only development units. Although I will have to say that there is one big asterisk on all of this, and that's because of the true power you get from pulling in this game doesn't necessarily come from the units you get from the gacha, but instead from their pilots. You see, pilots can be slotted into basically any unit, with some minor exceptions, and you can even do wacky stuff like put a durability pilot into an attacker if you really want. In fact, the true yet counterintuitive meta is actually slotting a support pilot into specific attacker units, because if you do it right, they still get their second support attack. You literally get attacker stats, but with the potential of firing off 4 attacks per round. It's absolutely nuts. However, the true gatekeepers at the endgame are the durability pilots. When you're going up against bosses that one-shot everything that isn't covered by a support defense, those tanks all of a sudden go from somewhat useless to being core pillars of your squad. SSR pilots in general tend to pale in comparison to UR pilots, simply because there's only like 2 of them that can do the double support defense or support attack. All of this means that attackers rule the early to mid game, durability rules the end game, and supports don't stop winning no matter what you're doing. Before we continue, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, AnimeDakimakuraPillow.com. It's only been 5 videos since they were last featured on the channel, mainly because my upload schedule has gotten downright atrocious. Y'all should know the drill by now. They sent me free products in exchange for my honest review of them. This time I got a new pillow along with the cover for it. And I also opted to try out their mix and match option that lets you pick any 2 sides of a cover they already have on the site to get this one that has Miyabi from Zen Zero on one side and Acheron from Star Rail on the other. What can I say? I just really like Hoyo's Virgil Devil May Cry clones. The 2-way tricot material the cover's made of continues to be my favorite, with it being soft and cool to the touch. As usual, the print job on the cover is crisp, and the sponsor has assured me that the cover is quite durable. The pillow arrived tightly packed in a compact poly bag that completely conceals the contents, which is discretion that I appreciate as I don't exactly want my cringe anime side to be on the front porch for all my neighbors to see. As usual, they also included a nifty drawstring bag and a couple of keychains. If you want a better idea of what all you can get from AnimeDakimakuraPillow.com, you can check out my original sponsor segment in my Nikkei review, or just browse the site yourself using the link in the description below. If you are thinking of getting anything from them, you can use the code ADP-VERMILION at checkout for 10% off your order, or if you're watching this before the 2nd of November, you can use the codes on screen to take advantage of their Halloween sale. Thanks once again to AnimeDakimakuraPillow.com for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the review. Oh, before I forget, I do want to mention that G Eternal probably takes the best approach to account re-rolling I've ever seen. You want to know why? Because you get to re-roll your first 10 roll infinitely. No wiping account data shenanigans here. G-Eternal just lets you keep gambling until you get your preferred starting role. This means you can pretty much always count on having the UR of your choice to start your account with. And let me tell you, if you're thinking of getting into this game, there are two that you should go for above all else. While I admit that I am 100% biased, let me explain. The Gundam Aerial EX is by far one of my favorite units in the entire game, because she just kinda does everything, and she does it well. She's tanky enough to not immediately crumple from an enemy attack like other supports. She's got insane range, her damage is nothing to laugh at, she's got a large amount of energy so she can just keep attacking. Oh, and she also applies one of the strongest defense debuffs in the game. Soletta's skills are pretty much good on any unit, and you can also slot her onto the aerial rebuild from the dev tree if you really want to go wacko mode with raw damage. The other standout UR I cannot recommend enough is the Sazabi, my beloved. Some say that the Exia is a must-have for early game, but to be honest, I personally think that the Sazabi is better. Of course, the main selling point of both the Exia and the Sazabi are high damage along with 2 chance steps, but the Sazabi has one thing that the Exia doesn't: range. Like, a lot of range. This means it's far easier to actually get those extra chance steps in, because in a pinch, you can just snipe some grunt from halfway across the map if you really need to. Oh, also, its EX attack does more damage the further away you are, and Char has a skill that further increases range, meaning you can often attack from outside a boss's counterattack radius. Don't sleep on its other attacks either, especially the funnels, which do more damage the lower the Sazabi's health is. What little damage the Sazabi sacrifices compared to the Exia, it more than makes up for in absurd utility. The only other UR I feel like commenting on is the Phoenix EX, which I mainly want to note is a bit overrated in my humblest of opinions. It granting passive health regen for all friendly units does sound insane, especially in a game with no dedicated healer units, but in practice, the health regen is too slow to really make much of a difference, especially since pretty much all endgame modes have a 3-turn limit. It still gets 2 support attacks and has a debuff that can stack with the standard defense debuff, but honestly I find that it's neither durable enough nor does enough damage to make up for its otherwise lackluster kit. Of course, I can't talk about the gacha without addressing the pachyderm in the vicinity. It is wild to me that in the age of Chinese gacha being the dominant model for how to run a gambling game, G-Eternal is not only a brutally Japanese gacha game, but it's a highly successful one at that. Let me take a step back for a moment and explain some context. Many moons ago, when Genshin was first releasing, I was initially highly reluctant to try it out. At the time, my image of a gacha game was one where free-to-play players had to scrimp and save every last gem they could get their hands on, and if you were lucky, you could get a character you wanted once every 6 months. Legitimately, it was only when I heard about Genshin's pity system that I actually began considering trying out the game. Fast forward a few years, and I wondered if the impression I originally had of gacha games was just the result of me being a broke teenager when I played Brave Frontier all those years ago. However, playing G-Eternal helped me realize that no, gacha games were legitimately handled differently back then. You see, Japanese gacha games and Chinese gacha games are handled in a fundamentally different manner. Japanese gacha games are really stingy with giving out premium currency compared to Chinese ones. Now don't get me wrong, both are greedy and are out to milk every cent they can out of you, but the Chinese ones tend to aim for converting large amounts of free-to-play players into low spenders, while Japanese ones give you the absolute bare minimum currency they can get away with while still making whaling comparatively expensive. Playing G-Eternal was a return to the old ways for me. I'd say it takes at minimum 3 months to save up enough gems to guarantee the unit you want from a banner. Meanwhile, there's a new banner roughly every 2 weeks or so. You have to have the self-control to skip a lot of units, or pay the price. And you want to know the worst part? Pity doesn't carry over between banners. So if the game is this harsh towards its free-to-play players, why am I still playing it? To be honest, it's the free units that save this game for me. Because the game is balanced around the free-to-play experience, I can take satisfaction in being a free-to-play player. The variety of units available to me is enough to keep me satisfied, and the game is kept fresh through a steady pace of new updates and events, with just enough gameplay to maintain my interest without overwhelming me. In other words, it's a great side game, and one that is easy to keep up with alongside the other stuff I have demanding my time. What remains to be seen is if they can stick to this design philosophy long term. It would be very easy for this video to age poorly because power creep is the cardinal sin that winds up killing many a gacha game. But that's a topic for another time. The fact that such a niche title has been able to go toe-to-toe with the titans of this industry really shows the power of the Gundam IP. It regularly shows up in the top 10, and we've frequently gotten free 10 rolls to celebrate the game hitting the top of the sales charts or some other crazy milestone, the most recent of which was 6 million downloads. Of course, the Gundam IP isn't the sole reason for the game's success. The team managing the game has made a legitimately compelling game and continues to push the limits of what G Eternal can offer. The introduction of Master League, an indirect PvP mode, and its subsequent improvements have been handled in a way that is actually quite fair. It's realistic for dedicated free-to-play players to get all of the premium currency available from it, with the rewards for whales being cosmetic titles. Events such as the Generation Tower put players through novel scenarios and give really solid rewards, such as strong development units or even a UR pilot with a unique ability that none of the Gacha pilots had at time of release. The recent SD Gundam event had fun retro game aesthetics and had the rewards area styled after the real-life SD Gundam card-ass trading card machines. It's clear to me that this game is the product of a team that is passionate about Gundam and wants the game to be the best that it can be, which is why SD Gundam G Generation G Eternal is the unfinished game that's topping the sales charts.